I've just watched or listened to that podcast with Tim Maudlin about the misunderstanding with the Nobel Committee's misinterpretation of what Bell's theorem proves. It's this thing about that little phrasing that it also helps to eliminate determinism in entanglement. So I need to document it now, because now I get it, and now I want to document it just for the sake of documentation. Hello, I'm on a mountain hike now listening to Tim Maudlin, and sometimes, I actually have these eureka moments while hiking. And now I have one of those moments again after listening to this Tim Maudlin interview. I know that not many people understand this stuff, but this is how I see it. These are really important things that are hidden in the details of science, and that's what I've also argued before. It's something among those super smart people in science. I think it's in their subconscious, which is completely understandable because they're so close to the gold, right? They can control everything. I talked about it in my podcast that those with super high IQs and such, they're brilliant, right? Why should they? They could just take over the whole world if they just get rid of that chaos. It's like removing nature's chaos by boiling down the struggle for existence into a simple two-dimensional game by introducing a lot of governmental rules. Turn it all into a board game, almost. While in nature's chaos, it's like playing 100-dimensional chess, so it's very difficult. Even if you have a super high IQ, it doesn't help you much compared to if they manage to remove the chaos and reduce it to some simple ruled game. And honestly believe that they have every single right to go ahead and do that. It is not where I want to go with this argument. It's not at all strange in nature trying to survive. And for the rest of us who aren't quite like that, as I often mention in the 45 podcast, the rest of us who perhaps aren't as clever, we are probably no better. I am certainly not trying to go there. I truly mean that, but I should be allowed to express my own opinion on this. Well, that is my own view on the matter. Again, I see this recurring pattern. Why are there always someone back there seemingly trying to stop non-locality? Now it's the Nobel Committee, right? And then you have that von Neumann who made that stupid misunderstanding that stopped the whole debate about non-local causal correlation for about 30 years, because he was actually the smartest mathematician in the world, really. And he insists that no, it is simply not possible. But then John Bell and others come along later and argue that 30 years down the line, von Neumann actually made a truly idiotic, almost entirely stupid assumption. And there are several such examples which I think stems from the subconscious brain, that those who are very, 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 very smart and have a very, very high IQ, they have a tendency towards wanting to remove chaos from the whole system. Because if you are willing to accept the concept of non-local causal correlation, which implies that there exists, as David Bohm also suggests, an information-driven machine, much like the theory I propose in my own paradise machine model, then suddenly we find ourselves living in a far greater, more complex chaos, a state that we have no chance of ever controlling. And that would then go against the strategy of those with the highest IQ among humans on Earth. And that's why I also think they have a tendency to want a state, want to remove the chaos, and that they're not interested in religions either. Because that would also then actually introduce chaos, right? Alright, yeah, so this is actually part 3 of this series. I tend to have these sudden epiphanies whenever I'm out hiking alone in the mountains. I was just listening to that recent podcast episode featuring Tim Maudlin. It was all about how the Nobel Committee supposedly made a significant error in their official wording when they awarded the 2022 Nobel Prize for the Bell's inequalities experiment. In the official explanation provided for the Nobel Prize, they assert that John Bell's work, or rather that the experimental results, helped to eliminate the possibility of determinism within quantum entanglement. However, Tim Maudlin argues that this interpretation is fundamentally incorrect. I finally understand his point of view now, but it seems that almost no one else has grasped it yet. But once again, I keep observing this pattern where it seems like some people are absolutely desperate to prevent chaos from being introduced into our surroundings. Because if you are willing to accept non-local causal correlation, then that would logically have to imply non-local determinism, wouldn't it? It's just like the famous concept of spooky action at a distance. Then you must come to accept that the world suddenly descends into a state of absolute unbridled chaos, and those who hold the reins of power find themselves unable to maintain any control, because in an instant everything devolves into a total mess for every one of us, from the very smallest to the greatest, and from those who possess the least control to those who hold the most. And then we all just end up in one giant tangled mess, don't we? Everything descends into absolute total chaos, and that is precisely why I am finally getting to the point. Yeah, the starting point is the EPR paper. I have to wrap this up because I'm in the mountains now, and it seems like the signal isn't that great. Okay, so I'm up in the mountains and all that. I just wanted to document this while it's fresh, because now I've got it and I don't want to let it go. And the reason for that is because this topic is actually exactly what my article for the year 2025 is all about. It is that specific phenomenon regarding what triggered the zero-risk signal, that fundamental stress signal in nature, which has gone universal throughout the entire cosmos, namely warned the whole machine. I am referring to the so-called grand mechanism. It occurs when a sentient life form has finally managed to tame the chaos and has gained absolute control over all the information. And it has something to do with chaos. If an intelligence that probably stands together because they can organize themselves together, right? A single monkey out in the jungle can't do that, right? No one in the jungle can do that. It has to be in the modern West, inside the authorities, where they organize themselves, cooperate. So it's true what they say. Together we are stronger. But the thing is, eventually they grow to be so incredibly strong that they begin to pose a genuine threat to nature itself by managing to lower the inherent risks in the struggle for existence all the way down to nothing. They effectively remove every single risk, so to speak, and yet only nature truly decides that outcome. So that is precisely what I have predicted, that nature it absolutely must understand what the ultimate purpose is. Nature has to know that, like a casino owner has to know that someone is cheating in the casino. Otherwise, the casino owner will go bankrupt. So by then, by cultivating the perfect lie, as the 2025 article says, they have then they've removed all the chaos by gaining full control over the information. And then returning once again to this specific podcast episode featuring my guest, Tim Maudlin, and he makes the point that, and I have argued this myself on several occasions, albeit from the sidelines, I really do feel that the whole situation is just desperate. As soon as you mention non-local correlations, causal correlations, it's like the horns come out on everyone. I mean, it's such a very inflamed topic in science, it seems. And then he says now, but then Tim Maudlin says, he argues, and now I understand what it was. And the Nobel Committee has misunderstood again, right? And says that determinism, that John Bell has removed determinism from non-locality. But that is absolutely correct. Yes, that is indeed Einstein's own specific way of looking at things, his particular interpretation of the concept of locality. The point is that there is indeed a form of determinism present, but that specific determinism remains strictly local, at least until the particles have managed to gain some significant distance from one another. So the fact that Bell has effectively disproven the concept of locality means that what he has actually disproven is merely Einstein's specific version of determinism. It's wrong. It would be wrong to say that the John Bell experiment has disproven determinism in non-local entanglement,
because the text explicitly states there, and that is Maudelin's point, that John Bell mentions later that he admires David Bohm, who developed that pilot wave theory. And regarding David Bohm, whom I actually just wrote a detailed article about on Medium, which is my latest piece on that platform. David Bohm, he thinks says the same as me, that it's a machine, right? That it's an information-driven machine that requires non-local determinism. And John Bell himself would later go on to state that the specific theory proposed by David Bohm represents, in his professional opinion, the single most impressive and successful attempt at describing the phenomenon. That simply cannot be the case. John Bell would not have said that if his experiments had disproven determinism in a general sense. The only thing he actually disproved was Einstein's version of this determinism, which relies on local variables, and that is precisely what I wanted to document